Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Siim Lund, and in this video we're going to talk about should you take a melatonin supplement, and maybe there are some better alternatives. Because I first came across this article in multiple let's say websites that talk about the use of melatonin as a supplement has been rising almost like two times more since a few years ago, and they also claim that there are some potential health harms to it. So in this video we'll just dissect the article, and I'll talk about is it safe to take a melatonin supplement and what are the better alternatives.
Make sure you click like and subscribe as well for future videos about optimizing your health and performance.
So the article, this one is called "Using Melatonin for Sleep is on the Rise, Study Says, Despite Potential Health Harms." And the study is published in JAMA, their medical journal JAMA, found that by 2018, Americans were taking more than twice the amount of melatonin they took a decade earlier. Experts worry that the pandemic's negative impact on sleep may have further increased the widespread reliance on sleeping aids. And melatonin has been linked to headache, dizziness, nausea, stomach cramps, drowsiness, confusion or disorientation, irritability and mild anxiety, depression and tremors, as well as abnormally low blood pressure. It can also interact with common medications and trigger allergies. So this is the claim, although I would say that melatonin itself is very important as a longevity hormone, and most people think that it's just used for sleep, but it has quite a central role to just all things anti-aging and longevity. So melatonin does regulate all these longevity pathways like sirtuins, autophagy, apoptosis, growth hormone, just physical repair, detox in the brain, the circadian rhythms. All those things are kind of connected to melatonin production, and even like studies find that melatonin has quite an important role in basically preventing cardiovascular disease as well. In this context, they're obviously talking about melatonin as the hormone and not melatonin as the supplement. So there is some, let's say, difference between producing your melatonin naturally and taking a supplement in terms of, let's say, the safety. The problem is that your melatonin levels do decrease with age quite significantly. You produce the most melatonin in your, let's say, puberty and early puberty, more specifically, that your melatonin levels start to decline after you go into puberty, and basically in your adulthood you have quite low levels of melatonin, and in the elderly also you have significantly less melatonin because the process of aging also kind of dampens the ability to produce those circadian hormones like cortisol and melatonin, among others. So your body will produce much less melatonin, and it has less amplitude in the melatonin production, which obviously can be harmful just for the processes melatonin regulates, like the autophagy, apoptosis, and immune system. Those things will also suffer if you have less melatonin production.
Sucks!
Use of melatonin as a supplement doesn't suppress endogenous melatonin production. So even like studies where you take 50 milligrams a day hasn't been found to change your basic melatonin profile. And like usually the supplementation is like 0.5 milligrams, 1 milligram, 0.1 milligrams. So it's relatively safe in a very small amount, so it's not going to mess up your own natural melatonin production. But the article mentioned the JAMA study. They also talk about how the basically the melatonin supplement market isn't very well regulated. So the melatonin supplements, they can be quite huge in terms of the actual amount of melatonin. So they can have up to 478% higher melatonin concentration than the label contains. So if you think that you're getting 0.5 milligrams, then you may be getting 400% more, which actually for let's say 0.5 milligram concentration isn't that significant. Even you're not going to get 50 milligrams if it's even 400% higher. So you're still getting relatively safe dose in that sense. So even though the amount of melatonin can be 400 times higher than the label says, even then, I mean, if you're just taking a small microdose, 0.1, maybe even 1 milligram, then you're not really getting that high amount of 50 milligrams, and up to 50 milligrams is even safe even in those doses.
Double dose in the hip.
In another past video that I made, I talk about the contraceptive effects of melatonin. So melatonin has like contraceptive effects as well, that it basically doesn't make you like infertile, but it has contraceptive effects and high doses, and the doses appear to be around 75 milligrams. And I mean, you would need to have like a huge, let's say, intake of melatonin to have that effect. And even like in this small doses, 0.5, 3 milligrams, it's not really doesn't really have any contraceptive effect. It doesn't affect sex hormones. It doesn't affect testosterone levels, unless you're taking 100 milligrams or something like that. Generally, like the melatonin supplementation is safe, even when we know that it may have 478% more melatonin than the label says. As long as you're taking like a 1 milligram dose, things like that, then it's not really needed. Is it worth it? Like I do take melatonin quite regularly, not every night, but I do think that it can be very beneficial for just fixing circadian rhythm mismatches, helping with poor sleep, jet lag, those kind of things, especially for immune system as well. If you've been catching some sort of infection, then like a larger dose of melatonin can actually be very beneficial for that. And there are studies using it, like very large doses, like 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams of melatonin a day to deal with different kinds of, respiratory infections. You know what I'm talking about. And generally, I do think that melatonin supplement is safe, but I wouldn't just recommend to take it every night, because as the article it says, also there are some potential negative side effects like drowsiness, lethargy, maybe fatigue, depression, those kind of things if you overdo it, and if maybe you're kind of sensitive towards that. And it's, of course, there is some truth to that. You should train your brain to produce its own melatonin, and you shouldn't need to have this sort of supplement to make you fall asleep, because your body produces melatonin naturally, and it's part of the natural circadian rhythm. To do so in the evening, your body should make melatonin. The problem is that there's a lot of things that inhibit that process, like stress obviously may keep you wired up, but it doesn't really affect your melatonin production that much, whereas things like artificial environments with artificial light, as blue screens, phones, those things, they actually have been found to suppress melatonin up to like 90%, even higher than that. Whereas like red lights, those things don't do that. So obviously the biggest reason why you're not producing melatonin at night is because of the artificial light, and artificial light at night exposure is associated with many diseases, cardiovascular disease and obesity and inflammation level, higher inflammation levels. So just eliminate the blue light, and your body, which should start to produce its own melatonin, maybe you wouldn't need to take a melatonin supplement because your body will be entrained to do so. Of course, we do live in a modern society. We don't have access to, or we prefer to basically use our technology still. So obviously, technology can also save us here. So using blue blocking glasses is the best way to basically protect your melatonin production and protect your circadian rhythms, so that you would be able to produce melatonin before bed. If you're not producing high amounts of melatonin before bed, then your sleep quality will be lower, and you're not going to go through all these beneficial repair processes that happen during sleep. Whereas if you use the blue blocking glasses, then they, especially the companies like Blue Blocks that I'm using, they have actually those lenses that filter out all the blue and green light that all suppress melatonin, and they let through only the red light that doesn't affect that. So obviously I'm a huge believer in melatonin. It's actually one of my favorite, let's say, longevity hormones. Is the most underrated longevity hormones in my opinion, because it's so kind of central to all these anti-aging processes inside the body that happen during sleep. And blue blocking glasses are the best way to protect your deep sleep and protect your melatonin production. So check out Blue Blocks. They're much better, like a more sustainable, let's say, thing to use compared to a melatonin supplement. Head over to blueblocks.com, use the code SEAM, SEAM15, and the website is also blueblocks.com/SEAMLund, where you can basically get the link and the code from there. Alright, that's it for this video. Make sure to click the like, subscribe, notification bell as well. My name is Seam. Stay optimized, stay empowered.